rock the atmosphere. At the crowd, they're never tame. Mets Postgame show brings the flame.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to your New York Mets postgame show. It's your boy CP, joined with my co-host Rob here on this beautiful postgame to start off our Friday evenings. Mets Nation, this feels absolutely fantastic. What an electric victory in the season home opener for your New York Metropolitans. Rob, how you doing today?
Trade them all. No. It was a very efficient game, right? Everything worked today. Again, we didn't get like 8 or 9 hits. It was 4 hits, and they were all extra base hits. But they were extra base hits when it mattered, when we had somebody on base. That was the key. Again, you don't have to have 10 hits a game. You just got to get the right hits at the right time. And it started off with Pete Alonso hitting that ball that he would have struck out on last year. The ball was in the other batter's box. And again, his approach made him get the barrel of the bat on the ball to hit that ball out. And the ball was traveling, it seemed like, to that area of the ballpark. But, I mean, he hit it dead on the barrel of the bat. It's just that his approach is looking the other way. And, listen, if he can hit for power, and what is it? What is his third home run? 2 out of the 3 have been opposite field, and 1 was center. So, listen, all around very good game. I like Mendoza pulling Megill when he got a little bit in trouble with the couple of men on. What did he walk them 2 guys on? And, and Mendoza, and you need a quick trigger with Tylor and Megill. He pitched very well today. His pitch count was very efficient. But overall, easy victory. And now we're
victory.
Easy victory. I like those.
It's a good victory. 4-3 is the New York Mets updated record. They get above 500, which is awesome. Again, only 7 games into the season, but it seems like it's very popular on this post-game stream. You know what we do here. Before we get into the actual recap of the game, spam those W's. Chat, please, everybody, participate. Spam those W's. It's a Mets victory. Let's get it. W, 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 W. I love it. Spam those W's. It is an amazing sight to see. CP, we want to see those W's. The W's are coming out. Spam them because it was an easy victory. Like you said, Rob, it was a painless victory, which is exactly what you want to see out of the New York Mets in the season home opener. This is the box score for the New York Mets. For those of y'all who are paying attention to this live stream and may not have seen the game, Rob, what do you take out of this box score? Obviously, you have to talk about Tylor Megill and his actual performance. I know that it was awesome. Mendoza had the appropriate, I guess, decision to pull him in the game when he did. Reed Garrett came in, got the outs. It was awesome. But what do you take out of this box score?
Nobody's talking about Siri not hitting well or Acuna or Vientos. Guess why? The top 4 actually did all the work today. It's amazing when the top of the order, the top 4 guys in the lineup, produce and do their job. Nobody cares about Siri, how bad he looked at the plate, and Acuna swinging at every pitch, and Vientos going 0 for 3. When the top 4 guys do their job and do it well, nobody cares about the bottom of the order. Prime example was today. We had 4 hits today. Guess who got all the big 4 hits? 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's very simple. It's a very simple game when the moneymakers, the big run producers, do the job. And that's how you win ball games. It was an excellent pitching performance all around from the pitching staff today. Well, 2 guys in Megill and Kranick, but that's all you needed. You know why? Efficient pitching and timely hitting by the top guys in our lineup. And that's how you win ball games, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I definitely agree with you. Listen, Tylor Megill, we talked about it in the pregame, whether he was going to be a thrower or whether he was going to be a pitcher. And it just seemed like he was out there pitching. He had full confidence in the defense behind him. And he was just utilizing his whole entire arsenal. And, what is a pretty decent Blue Jays lineup, especially in their top 5, top 6. Springer had a good game, but that happens. And you're allowed to sort of let a guy, a singular guy in the opposing lineup have a good game, as long as you bounce back in all the other at bats. And Megill definitely made most of his pitches. 5 1/3 innings pitched, only 82 pitches again. Mendoza's usually around the 80 to 89 pitch mark so far in the first two go rounds of this rotation. I don't think we've seen a single Mets pitcher get into the 90s in the pitch count, but he wasn't overly dominant either. And you take a look at 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. He wasn't overly dominant, but he did not need to be, as he just let the defense behind him make the plays. And the bullpen, again, just did a fantastic job. You had first and second, I believe, 1 out when Reed Garrett came into the ball game, getting 2 huge outs. Reed Garrett has been absolute nails this season so far for the New York Mets. And that is a testament, right? When Carlos Mendoza, doesn't need to ask much out of his starting pitching. Keep us in the ball game, over those, 4 2/3, 5 1/3 innings, and let the bullpen do the rest. And hopefully the offense gets the job done. And the offense was definitely up to the task, especially in that first inning. And that swing by Pete Alonso was absolutely phenomenal. For those of y'all who, again, did not see the game, first inning, Kevin Gausman notoriously has early inning troubles, and that was consistent in this ball game as well. I mean, he threw upwards of 30 pitches. I think it was mid-20s in the pitch count for Kevin Gausman in the first inning. Pete Alonso on a ball that he either takes or definitely swings and misses at. In that count last season, is able to just flick his wrist. It wasn't a pretty swing by any stretch of the imagination. It was almost a half swing, but a credit to his power and maybe a little bit of that wind blowing, if there was some in the forecast, he puts it out to right field. And this start for Pete Alonso is just something that a lot of Mets fans dreamed of coming into this season, especially after the Mets re-signed him. And, Juan Soto gets on the board, his first official start as a New York Met at Citi Field. RBI double. And now you're starting to see that 1-2 tandem with Lindor and Soto in those 1-2 spots really coming to fruition. And also Brandon Nimmo gets in on the action with an RBI double himself as well. It just seemed like the Mets knew that this was their season home opener. They did not want to disappoint, to be honest.
Yeah, it was so efficient. Like, it wasn't. Again, you look at the score, you're like, all right. You look at the box score, you're like, all right, 4 hits, not bad, not terrible. And then the 5 runs, you're like, all right, somebody hit a couple of home runs, but no, it was Alonso, and then it was a couple of doubles, and it drove in runs. And what about Lindor leading off the ball game, beating it out for a double there on the first at bat of the game? Everybody's singing "My Girl" before the at bat. Took the time out before the at bat even started just to make sure everybody sang "My Girl." Got the fans going right away, and then hustles for a double. And the slide was outstanding, getting away from the glove of Andres Jimenez, and it just started. It just started the roll. It led to Pete Alonso's home run, and we go from there. It's the little things sometimes, Chris. It really is. You don't have to do too much to win ball games, especially a Toronto Blue Jays team that we all believe we're better than. They're a team that I think is mentally weak. You could see it seemed like they weren't in the game the whole time. After that Alonso home run, it was game over. Did anybody think Toronto was going to come back and win this ball game? I didn't. It's just you got to put the pressure on. Remember, we're a target now. Everybody knows who we are. Right? There's no excuses. There's a lot of expectations, and everybody around the league sees us as a bullseye, as a target. And when you put the foot on the throat early, it's hard for them to recover. And, that was something that the Mets had a hard time doing early in the season last year. And they done it a couple of times this year. They did it in the second game in Houston. They did it in both games in Miami, first and third. And they did it on opening day today in the first game in the series against Toronto. I like the way they're playing. Much more efficient offensively, and that's what this team's got to continue to do, especially at the top of the order.
100%. And you talk about just like hustle plays in general. I mean, even Juan Soto stole a bag in this ball game off of Yariel Rodriguez, one of their relievers. And, him going up against the fence and making that catch right at the fence, and not crashing into the wall, but definitely, bumping the wall later in the game too. It's just like all these guys just seem to be on point. They're hustling, they're playing for each other, and the tone was really set by, Francisco Lindor out of the gates with that first at bat, was able to evade Andres Jimenez's tag. It was a replay review. They originally called him out, and that was overturned, thanks to the studios in New York. So it was a great game. I mean, there's like zero complaints out of me surrounding this team with this game. It was a textbook game. They showed up to play. They got to Gosman early, which is awesome. Anytime you can get to a pitcher, of Gosman's caliber very early into the game and just kind of take the wins out of the Toronto Blue Jays sails, it's like, that's a win. You're going to take that all day, every day. So this was just a clean baseball game, top to bottom. Yeah, the bottom of the lineup, like you just mentioned, nobody's really pointing out the offers that we had all the way at the bottom with Acuna, Siri, etc. Because the top of the lineup gets the job done. And that's something that, if they continue to do this season, we're in for a good time. We're in for a great regular season until the postseason comes around, and things kind of change, as we all know, with the environment and the play style of the postseason. But yeah, this was tremendous. I don't even really know where to go next, to be honest with you, with how this game played out, because there's really nothing else to analyze. But again, tip of the cap to Max Kranick, tip of the cap to really every bullpen guy. I mean, AJ Minter, who that home run that was reviewed obviously was clearly foul. I'm not sure why they reviewed it. It was a little bit of a scare. Then he came back and was kind of pissed off, and it's like, why'd you even review that? And he just strikes him out right after that. So the bullpen comes in, does its job, and again, this team that's been decimated by injuries thus far, both to the lineup and the starting rotation, we knew the one strong suit, even with Daniel Nunez not even being a part of the equation, the bullpen, that was going to be the strong suit of this team. And so far this season, minus Danny Young, outside of him, they've been up to the task, because if it wasn't for Danny Young, they would still be holding a scoreless streak, I guess, continuous scoreless streak here in the first 7 games of the season. So that's how impressive that they have been.
Yeah, I mean, we all thought on paper this bullpen was going to be very good. I mean, it's above expectation at this point already. I mean, I think it's like 16 innings of giving up 1 or 2 runs. That was the Danny Young situation, but they've been outstanding. And this is what you need again with a rotation that you don't expect to go very deep into ball games. 6 innings is a plus, but if they don't, you got guys to get multiple innings. And what about Reed Garrett when Megill got the first 2 the 2 men on with 1 out, and you're like, all right, Mendoza with the quick trigger with Tylor Megill. I think that's key. Once again, Mendoza is managing Megill perfectly. Don't let him get into his own head, because we see what happens second, third time through the order. He kind of, loses a little bit, especially his location. He gets a little bit wild, and that's when he gets into trouble. Mendoza twice this year already didn't waste any time. He could have left him in there, could have seen what he done it, but you know what? You got to win ball games here. You can't let those type of games get away from you. Took him out. Reed Garrett came in, 2 strikeouts, boom, done. And then Minter did his job, and then Kranick finished up the game. And what about Max Kranick? Had his family there. He's a Mets fan. I mean, that guy's been outstanding. We both liked him, Chris, a lot. And you know what? I'm not sure how long one of these guys are going to be in the rotation, but I still wouldn't be shocked if Max Kranick finds his way into the rotation, especially if Daniel Nunez come back over the next couple of weeks or so, even though he's going to replace Danny Young. Would not be shocked if they do go to a 6-man when people get healthy. Would they put Max Kranick in the rotation only because, do you really need another arm in the bullpen if Daniel Nunez comes in? You know what I'm saying? I would think they might use Max Kranick in the rotation as a 6-man rotation if they decide to go to that. But overall, man, this bullpen is as advertised. And finally, we get something we actually see that are supposed to be good, and they are.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of what my live chat poll was geared towards, not really so much. And I do think that there's going to be a shuffle between the rotation and, the bullpen when Daniel Nunez comes back, when, Manai and Montas, get back. We're not even talking about Paul Blackburn right now when he's designated to get back. And, what are you going to do with Paul Blackburn at this point? But, my live chat is, are you convinced with Tylor Megill so far in these first two outings, especially if Mendoza is managing him in this way? Because, if he got into trouble at some point, especially with it only being a two-run ball game at the time, maybe in the fourth inning, let's say he was 4 2/3 of the way through and got into some trouble. I honestly think that Mendoza would have just, pulled the plug right then and there. It was kind of a case by case basis in terms of each batter that Megill was facing at that time. And so I do 100% agree. Mendoza managed this ball game perfectly, and you don't see any mishaps because of it. The end result is as such. It's a shutout victory in the season opener, the home opener of the season. So again, we're just about 16 minutes into this post-game show. Please do smash those thumbs up buttons. Do not forget to smash the thumbs up buttons on this stream. Subscribe to both my channel and Rob's channel if you want constant pre-game streams, post-game streams, and everything else in between for this 2025 New York Mets season. And this is just something that, for the fans that were in that ballpark, tailgating hours before the game started, taking off of work Friday, or maybe just having the day off in general, it doesn't matter. That was well worth their time and well worth their extended money to go and see that. But you got to hope the momentum carries in and rides in there too. And, again, I just don't want to gloss over the fact that the Toronto Blue Jays and their lineup, Bo Bichette, George Springer, you've got, Vladdy Guerrero Jr. It's a pretty formidable lineup. It's not, it's not going to scare you times 10, right? Like some of these other lineups that, you might face in this season, but it's a pretty formidable lineup that they put together over there. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of names. So I just don't want to gloss over the fact that Megill really did his job. And this is a guy that we've both been hard on, and rightfully so, with his production levels over the past couple of seasons and really in his entire career thus far as a starting pitcher. But he's really been up to the task here. And I said it in the pregame, if Tylor Megill is able to replicate these types of starts, not even this type of start, because this is an anomaly. I mean, 5 1/3 innings pitched, only 0 runs given up. If he's able to just keep the Mets in ball games over the first 5 innings, giving up 3 runs, even 4 runs, who cares? The Mets offense should be good enough and productive enough to go ahead and keep them in line in that 5th starter role, and then the Mets can just plug and play for that 6th spot if they really want to go to a 6-man rotation. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, I mean, we know Tylor Megill has the stuff. His curveball looks a lot better than this year. We know he worked out with his brother a lot this year in regards to that curveball. He worked a lot with his brother. Obviously, we know his brother on the Brewers. He worked on it all season with him, worked out with his brother, especially with that curveball. You could see the difference in the snap of that pitch. But you can't throw that curveball if you're not locating that fastball. When he locates his fastball, it sets up all his other pitches. I mean, this is not breaking news here. We know Tylor Megill has the stuff. He has ace-like stuff. Let's be quite honest. He has 96, 97, 98 miles an hour, and he has all the other secondary pitches, the tertiary pitches that he needs. It's just the consistency. We've seen this before. He starts good early, in not just the games, but in the season. He'll go like a month and a half pitching well, and then he'll have a stretch of a couple of months where he can't get out of the 3rd inning. That's been his MO. And then when he pitches later in the year, he pitches well again. It's the middle of the year where he has the lack of consistency. I don't know if it's lack of focus. I don't know if he's tired. I don't know if it's confidence or whatever. And Joel just said it right there. Megill beats himself. That's the perfect comment right there. It's 100% true. He beats himself. He has the stuff, right? The reason why has always been a problem with Megill was consistency. Again, early in the season, he usually does well. Later in the season, he usually does well. It's them 3 to 4 months, those 3.5 months of the season where he's just really not good. And if he can just combat that, and I'm not saying be great, but be solid, give your team a chance to win. Pitch like he did today, or pitch like he did against Houston. You'll be fine. And nobody will be complaining about you getting the hell out of the rotation. So he's been good in the first 2 starts. Hopefully he keeps it up. We need him right now with Manaea and Montas still on the shelf. And if he does that, I think we could take it every day of the week, every time he pitches. If we can get close to what we got his last 2 starts, you have to sign on the dotted line with Tylor Megill.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought it was kind of funny in terms of the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen that ex-Met Jacob Barnes got into the game. That was kind of a little bit of a throwback there. He was a Met for just about a season, I believe. So that was, I guess, a good to see a former Met. But, the other thing about this lineup that I wanted to talk about was we talked about it in the pregame, pretty much the entire time when we were talking about Kevin Gausman was the key to this game was his splitter. Can they figure that out? And they were just grinding out tough at bats in the first inning. And I guess the booth and Gary, Keith, and Ron were saying that Kevin Gausman before the game, was assessing the lineup and talking about Juan Soto, of course, in particular, with his eye at the plate, and that he wants to get swing and miss on non-strikes with his splitter and his slider in particular, right? Setting up the fastball, getting ahead in counts, and being able to utilize those off-speed pitches, particularly the slider and the splitter, at his disposal and getting the opposing hitters to chase and kind of fish out of the zone. And the Mets hitters just simply weren't budging at that. Pete Alonso wasn't budging at that. Juan Soto in his first at bat, he did pop out in his first at bat, but that doesn't really matter. He worked a pretty tough at bat against Kevin Gausman. He wasn't chasing at that. Brandon Nimmo in the first inning had a pretty lengthy at bat that, he could have definitely expanded his zone and got over anxious and swung at some garbage. And they didn't. And that was really the key. Now, Kevin Gausman ended up pitching a fine ball game. It was just really the first inning that came, back to haunt him. And he kind of dialed it in. But, that is, you'll see these elite pitchers pitch to that kind of tune. And really the ball game is we've been talking about with the Mets pitching is that, you use your fastball to set up the off-speed pitches. And Kodai Senga pitches to this effect as well with his ghost fork. I mean, those pitches that he throws aren't strikes at the end of the day. It's just if the hitters can lay off of him or not. And sometimes,
100%.
they do, and sometimes they don't. And offenses, especially when it comes to the Mets offense, if you're able to lay off of those elite pitches that are going to end up being balls, it's just going to put you in advantageous counts, and they're going to have to throw a fastball. Now, Kevin Gausman, I believe, did throw a fastball to Pete Alonso, located it perfectly, by the way. That was the perfect location of where to locate that fastball. Pete Alonso is just a fantastic, strong hitter, and he put it out of the ballpark. But that was really the thing that I was noticing, especially in that first inning, was the actual plate discipline of this New York Mets lineup. That's something that I want to continue to see consistently moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm not a big analytics person. Everybody knows that, but the advanced analytics on Kevin Gausman was probably he throws a low percentage of strikes with that splitter. So if you just look at the advanced analytics and you see that he rarely throws that splitter for a strike, what do? You lay off of it. If you lay off of it, guess what he's got to come over the plate with or around the plate? The fastball. And that's when the Mets actually jumped on it. And he didn't pitch badly. I think John Schneider kind of made them, lose the game when Gausman had got out 14 out of his last 15 batters. And I know the pitch count was up, but this is the problem with analytics is that in pitch counts, they took him out of the game when the Mets could not hit him. And what did they do? Bring in a lefty for Juan Soto and Brandon Nimmo. And they both got hits. They both got doubles. So like it's little things like that where analytics come in and pitch count third time through the order, blah, 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 all that stuff. When Kevin Gausman could have pitched another 15 pitches where most of the guys couldn't touch him. I think they had 2 hits on the day before they brought in the left-hander. Like that is the little things. Like it's sometimes when you have to look at the pitcher and say, should I bring in a lefty who is not better than Gausman just because lefty? Like you have Brandon Nimmo and Juan Soto who stay in. They don't step in the bucket. They don't flail their asses out. They stay within themselves. They stay balanced against lefties. The difference between John Schneider and Carlos Mendoza, John Snyder made that mistake. Carlos Mendoza rarely does with that
Yep.
situation. It goes more with his, hey, is this guy looking good at the? If Megill was doing well in that fifth inning or in his last inning, he would have stuck with him regardless of the numbers. John Snyder didn't. I think Gaussman had 92 pitches or something like that, 89, 90, around 89, 91, something like that, around that area. More than enough where he could have pitched another 10 to 15 pitches and got out of the inning. But again, certain managers make those mistakes so often and it loses their team games. Not saying that the Mets would have lost if they would have just scored the 2 runs or the 3 runs, but it kind of put this game away when he bring that lefty in and they hit the back-to-back the 2 doubles. It kind of ended the game right there. So it's the little things and the little gut decisions over matchups or analytics that Mendoza did today. Mendoza managed this game perfectly. He took out Megill at the right time. The lineup that he put together, roses, right? Everything looked good. The bullpen guys that he brought in, perfect. Everything he did today was absolutely the right decision. And the difference can be a win or loss just based on your manager's decision.
Yeah, 100%. Guys, listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is a fantastic game, And because it was such a fantastic game, as we're now seeing quotes with Juan Soto and Pete Alonso side by side in the post-game press conferences, which is surreal for us Mets fans to
Right?
even kind of witness.
It's
It's
real,
awesome.
guys. It's real.
It's real. It is real for at least this 2025 season while we kind of deliberate on the future of what, Pete Alonso is going to do in his free agency decision. Because if he keeps this up, I mean, he's batting 292. His slug is 750. Again, it's only 7 games. I understand that. But, I really do think we're going to see a new version of Pete Alonso. And that's why I said that this offseason, when we were doing the offseason content, offseason videos, I said it's got to be Juan Soto. And one of the first decisions that I would have made, it was locking up Pete Alonso. And they played the long game with him, and they did everything, correctly in terms of the actual logistics of it.
Yeah.
But that was the move to do, right? In terms of bringing in Juan Soto, and then not the next hitter, but the guy that you should be bringing in is Pete Alonso, really, because you saw Jesse Winker get signed before that, etc. But it's surreal, especially with the top 5, top 6 of this lineup, something that we've really never seen before. And they're going to win the New York Mets a lot of ball games, regardless of the rotation and how people feel about it. I know that there was a lot of people in this fan base that felt some type of way about this rotation, had a lot of unkind words for David Stearns in terms of how he decided to build this rotation. And that still is valid. I'm not saying that it's not over the first 7 games, because things can change with a snap of the finger. But, this offense and the way that it's set up can win this team a lot of ball games. And in honor of such a nice, easy victory, such as today, to start off our Friday evenings, guess what? Let's spam the W's 2 times in this stream. Spam those W's in the live chat. It's a Mets victory.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Get me hype on a Friday. Why don't you, Mets? This is awesome. Listen, we're looking for some consistency, of course. So we're going to talk about, it's 28 minutes into the stream, and I really don't feel like there's anything else that we really need to talk about. Chat, if we're mistaken, if there's anything else that you would like to talk about in this game, please point it out to us. But I think that this was such a clean ball game that the New York Mets put together. I mean, we could have gone on for like 2 hours in that victory over the Marlins in Game 3 with how sloppy that victory was. But this is a clean ball game. This gets us on here on the channel, in and out in 30 minutes or less. Now, of course, we're going to talk about tomorrow's ball game coming up between Griffin Canning and Chris Bassett as the probable starters. But this is what happens when the Mets play clean baseball. We shut our mouths. We shut our mouths. You know what I mean? Like we applaud them, we commend them, we talk about it, and then we shut our mouths. So pending anything else, we can always revisit. Chat, drop those live chat comments again. Please let us know if we missed anything. Let's talk about tomorrow. Riding such a nice victory into tomorrow on Saturday. I believe it's a night game, 7:10 p.m. Griffin Canning, Chris Bassett as the probable starters. Now you're talking about a different situation for the Mets lineup. And of course, we're not going to get into all of it because I don't know if I can be available for the pregame. I'll just say that. So we'll message back and forth with each other. I'm not sure if you're going to hold it down or not tomorrow, depending on your schedule, Rob. But, these are two kind of different pitchers between Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassett. Kevin Gausman is throwing 94, 95 miles per hour. Chris Bassett doesn't have that. He's got 92, 93, max. But Chris Bassett also does have he's going to throw the kitchen sink at you. He's got 6 or 7 different pitches that he can choose from, where Kevin Gausman's really only relying on 3, maybe 4. So it's a little bit of a different kind of like head game between the pitcher and the Mets lineup. But in addition to that, given with what the Mets produced offensively today, it's still early in the season. Do you expect, if anything, to be different with the Mets lineup tomorrow? Like, what are your predictions with that?
Well, I mean, Mendoza surprises today with the lineup. He went with his gut. He went with the guys who actually were hitting, or at least were better than the other guy replacing them. I wouldn't be shocked if you see the same lineup. You might see Tylor over Siri because Siri looked lost today at the plate. Maybe you'll see Beatty because Acuna swings at everything, unfortunately. Because he isn't really winning the job either. So it's kind of like, where's Jeff McNeil when we need him? But it's really I think the lineup's going to change a little bit. I think Beatty and Tyrone Taylor is going to be in the lineup tomorrow. Other than that, you might see Winker again. Like I said, you might see all 3 guys that we didn't think were going to be in the lineup today or tomorrow. Excuse me. That's what I think you might see. This the normal changes, but nothing drastic in my opinion. But again, listen, we won on Wednesday. We won today. We win tomorrow. We know what that is. That's called a winning streak. Yes, that's a quote from Major Leagues. Had to say it. Just had to say it. But listen, this is how you produce just wins. This, getting winning streaks early and often. Do it early. I said this over and over again. Win as many games as you can in April because it you can get between that 5 to 10 game over 500 mark in April. It helps you when you go through a little splat in the later months where you might lose 4 out of 5. So you don't drop down. You can't be hovering around the 3, 4, 5 game, 500 mark and, over 500 and you lose a couple of games in a row and you're right back to 500. You can't play that game, especially with the NL West. There's like 4 teams that are actually really good. And then you also have the Phillies, you have the Mets, and if the Braves ever win a game this year, but it's really, that's how important this is. Like, I know it's very early in the season, Chris, and I shouldn't be talking about this, but you know what? The division might be the best way to make the playoffs this year, the way the NL West is playing right now. I know that's crazy to say. It's so early in the season, but again, early wins are so important, right? 0-7 is the Braves. A team never made the playoffs being 0-7. Not saying that they can't because they're still the Atlanta Braves, but winning early and getting on the right track helps you down the road with a little bit of a hiccup in a week or two. That's the difference between a really good team and a top 5 team in baseball. And I think they could have a really good April. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and it sets the tone for the rest of the season. I mean, we're going to be all eyes on the rest of the National League. I think the Padres just got handed their first loss of the season today against the Cubs. The Braves are playing against the Marlins later on. I think we're going to, I'll be watching that, some of it at least. And Darren makes a great point here too. I mean, given this lineup and the struggles, I mean, you got multiple guys in this lineup struggling, especially towards the bottom half, and we're still able to pull out these ball games. Imagine when everybody's clicking on all cylinders. But again, as we talk about all the time, regardless of what the bottom of the lineup does, we want to see production at the top because it starts with the top. And that is, how the Mets are going to get carried, to be honest with you. So I agree with you. This National League is going to be tough. We knew this going in. I mean, the Diamondbacks are only 4-3, but I think they took this series from the Yankees, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I will check that, but I know that they did beat the Yankees at least one time. And yeah, this is going to be a very tough National League. So I agree. In the early goings of the season, it's not going to win you anything. We saw it happen in 2022 where the Mets, choked up the division after getting off to a very hot start in a big lead, especially going into summer months, and it just kind of dwindled from there on. But as you get more of the troops back, I know that we don't like to think of McNeil as anything. A lot of people are like anti McNeil, which is fine. I get it. Like second base needs an upgrade in general. It's not going to happen this season, but we're talking about in future seasons. Alvarez, the playing time distinction between Alvarez and Torrens is going to be very interesting when Alvarez gets back. I do think actually that it was reported before the game started today that Alvarez is already catching bullpens from Kodai Senga, and I think he's taking batting practice or something of that nature. He's swinging a bat. So, like, he's kind of well on his way to coming back with as well as Torrens is playing, let alone offensively, but defensively as well. I'm curious what the split of that playing time is going to be. Because at this point, of course, Francisco Alvarez is going to be labeled as the starting catcher, and I think that he's going to get the bulk workload. But I think that Luis Torrens really has played himself into more playing time early this season than what the Mets originally had planned for him once Alvarez got back after the end of spring training. So that's going to be also, yet to be determined. But yeah, it's exciting times. And the one thing that we need out of the New York Mets that we sometimes lack, sometimes in seasons past, is just the consistency, right? You just played a fantastic ball game, won 5-0. It was a shutout. We're not asking for the same. I'm not even honestly asking for a win tomorrow. Of course, we're always rooting for the win. If the Mets lose, I understand. But just play a clean baseball game.
Correct.
Don't have the same things happen, the same mental lapses happen that happened in some of the games in Houston, in Game 3 of the Marlins series. Don't let that happen in Game 2 of the Marlins series as well. Play a clean baseball game. If you play a clean baseball game and the other team is just better than you on that given night, that's fine. We'll talk about it as such. But it's just the mental lapses and the little mistakes that really get us going. So play a clean baseball game. We'll talk about the end result tomorrow in the post game.
Yeah, and talking about Alvarez, Mendoza did it a couple of times last year. You can DH Alvarez and catch Torrens behind the plate. Especially if Torrens is hitting pretty well, you can do that. You could definitely do that. And, you might do that instead of doing that once a week. Maybe you'll do that twice a week or 3 times a week. If you have no days off, you could put Alvarez 2 or 3 times a week at DH, and you have the better catcher in Torrens behind the plate. I mean, that could be a way to go. I know you leave Winker and Marte on the bench, but, you try that out and see if it works. See if you can get Alvarez going with the bat. And, yeah, and, so I think it was Joel brought it up saying that if Beatty plays tomorrow against Bassett, it would go 0-for-4 because Bassett throws a lot of junk. True, but because Chris Bassett doesn't throw hard and he throws a lot of slow pitches, it might speed up Beatty's bat and he might lean into one. It's wishful thinking, but God, can somebody hit at second base? I want to see somebody take control. It's crazy. Like honestly, Jeff McNeil could do just as worse. You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather see the young kids every day of the week. But again, you got to get some production from the second base spot. A little bit.
Can you imagine if Jeff, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but can you imagine if Jeff McNeil comes back and just something flips in his brain? It's just like, I'm going to start raking right now. Like how much lengthening of the lineup that would
it would shut up the entire Met fan base. Like it really would. And you know what? And we'll still cheer because you know what? We are fools because we get on players and then they start hitting and doing well, and they were the most hated player, and now they're the most, now they get cheered.
Beloved player, yeah.
That is what a fan is. We can bitch, moan about a player, but when they start hitting, when they start producing, we act like we didn't say nothing, or we start cheering. But you know what? That's the beauty of the game. That is the beauty.
It's fluid.
Yeah,
that's sports. It's fluid. 100%. Things change. Situations change.
Great word, fluid. 100%. That's exactly what it is. And listen, if Jeff McNeil comes back and starts hitting, we talked about this in the offseason. If Jeff McNeil is hitting, nobody will be talking about Luisano Acuna or Brett Beatty or Jet Williams or Ronnie Mauricio, because it doesn't matter if the guy that's at that position is producing. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, let's be honest. You like Luisano Acuna. I like Brett Beatty. Somebody actually might like Jeff McNeil in the comments. At the end of the day, whoever is producing, we all want to play every day. It's just that simple.
Mhm.
It's just that simple. It's not rocket science. It's freaking baseball. And Chris said the exact perfect word, fluid. And it should be as a fan. Hopefully somebody steps up. Listen, we're hoping one of the kids step up because it just makes so much more sense for one of the kids to step up and do it because nobody really wants to see Jeff McNeil anymore. But if Jeff McNeil produces, we're all in. Hey, is Jeff in the lineup? Get him in there. Let's go. And that's just how it goes. That's baseball, Susan.
100%. And Joel is saying it perfectly. I'm like that, as you just described, Rob. I've driven McNeil to the airport 365 times. I think some Mets fans have driven him to the airport a lot more times than just 365, to be honest with you. But yeah, there's a varying degree of, Mets fans wanting to see, because again, outside of this contract, if he survives it in a Mets uniform,
Yeah.
Mets fans want to see the future at second base, right? They're already looking ahead of to the future of second base, which could theoretically be Beatty or Acuna, but they haven't been living up to that expectation. So it's natural. But also outside of that, it's also needed because McNeil is just simply not available right now. He's actually hurt. So that's the cards that the Mets were dealt. And that's what it is. So yeah, 100%. Shout out to Darren as well. Like and subscribe to CP's True Mets Talk. Don't only subscribe to me. I appreciate you, Darren, though. You are the man. Subscribe to also Talking Mets with Rob on YouTube as well. Follow all of our social medias. You know where to find us. Everywhere. Instagram, X, everywhere. All platforms, to be honest. I have every single platform that you could probably even imagine, probably. I'm sure there's like some newer apps and that I'm not caught up on, whatever. But appreciate the super chat there, and it means a lot. Thank you for being a very loyal subscriber and listener to these Mets post-game and pre-game shows. Rob, final thoughts here. Only 41 minutes into the stream. It seemed like a quick one. Not really much else to analyze. Also, congrats to Max Kranick. I mean, that must have felt really good for him coming into the ball game. Grew up a Mets fan, pitching for his favorite team that he grew up watching. It's got to be awesome, especially with his family in the stands, that the SNY crew panned to when he was on the mound, taking videos and cheering and just causing a ruckus, as they should, because that's their guy, and he's doing it on the biggest stage.
Yep.
So congrats to Max Kranick. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that is a fan's biggest dream, right? Being a fan of that team, being good enough to be a professional, and playing for the team you rooted for. That's all of our dreams when we were growing up. Playing for the Mets, playing whatever position you love. He got the opportunity to do that, and congratulations to him. He's been outstanding along with that. And what Joel said about driving Jeff McNeil to the airport 365 times, I threw Jeff McNeil in Flushing Bay, and that some bitch didn't drown. But he keeps on swimming. But at the end of the day, guys, keep on winning. We're going for 3 in a row tomorrow. Tomorrow we win another series. That'll be 2 in a row. Keep on ticking on those wins, getting those W's, spamming those W's, and let's get it done today. Great job by everybody that played today, pitching and offense. Great job, and let's do it all again tomorrow, Chris.
Absolutely. See you all. I'm not going to be available for the pregame. I will be available for the postgame. I know that for sure. I'll be rushing back home in time to get everything in order and make myself available for the postgame. So if it's delayed just a little bit, apologies about that, but I will be live. And Rob, do you know if you're going to be available?
Yeah, I'm off the next 3 days. I'm ready to go for everything.
Perfect. Look at that. Get confirmation for a postgame again. Hopefully, Rob will down for the pregame. Hit those notifications buttons. Hit the like buttons on this stream on both channels. And if you're subscribed to one of the channels but not the other, again, you know where to find us. Talking Mets with Rob, True Mets Talk podcast here over on YouTube for me with your boy CP. Subscribe to both the channels. And yeah, that was a beautiful ball game. Hopefully, we're up here talking about a similar type of ball game tomorrow. And as always, let's go Mets. That's going to do it for us. Peace out.
LFGM.